Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a vacuum tube shortage. Unfortunately, yes, that's right, there is a vacuum tube shortage and we're in the middle of it right now already, and we have been for years. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but if you go online and you click on some tube amps, say, I don't know, Marshall or whatever, pick whichever store you want, scroll up and down and you will see that it will say out of stock on a lot of amps, or it will say ready to pre-order in 4 to 7 weeks, or it will say just pre-order. And it's been like that for a while. You know, pick whichever brand you want. It doesn't matter whether it's EVH, doesn't matter whether it's Fender, doesn't matter whether it's Mesa Boogie, doesn't matter whether it's Marshall, doesn't matter which brand you pick. There is a tube shortage, and there has been for a while. The reason for that is because something went wrong at a factory in China, one of the main factories. So any amp that's produced in China, or any amp that is using Chinese tubes, which is a lot of amps these days, is going to be suffering, and there's going to be a backlog. Obviously with COVID and what's happened over the last 2 years, there's already a production shortage of other components, you know, resistors, capacitors, circuit boards, whatever you name it. And that goes for everything. You know, there's a shortage of everything right now. Everything there's a backlog for everything. Every business is behind and suffering because of COVID. On top of that, as far as we're concerned, when we're talking about tube amps, there is this situation with the Chinese factory, which nobody really knows the full story of what has happened. So the most recent event that happened a few days ago, involving this whole tube shortage situation, putting even more pressure on the tube situation, is Electro Harmonix, who actually make their tubes in Russia. They own a factory there, and they make about 5 different brands of tubes, and obviously they rebrand them. You know, I think it's Sovtek, Tungsol are 2 of the major ones. I'm not sure what the others are, but there's a few of them off the top of my head. I can't think what they are, but there's a few different brands that are all made there in Russia. And obviously at the moment, with the things that are going on in the world, there's going to be none of those coming out. Electro Harmonix did actually make an official statement and put that out, which caused all these videos to be made, and you know, and all this panic. Caused all this panic. This leaves really only one place that I know of where tubes come from, and that's the JJ factory. I can't remember where the JJ factory is. It's not Russia, but it's somewhere around there. It's somewhere around the area. So if we have the Chinese factory that nobody really knows what's happened there, some say a fire, some say it's just been closed down. The Russian factory, the Electro Harmonix factory that make Tungsol and Sovtek tubes, they're not going to be coming out of Russia anytime in a rush. That leaves just the JJ factory, which cannot make enough tubes. Just about every amp that you buy, including EVH here, even if it doesn't say JJ on it, if it's not using Chinese tubes, it's odds on that the tubes in there are actually JJ tubes. So many brands use them, so every amp manufacturer out there, it can't go to China for the tubes, it can't now go to Russia. It's all going to hit and land on the JJ factory. It was already under pressure because of the closure of the Chinese factory. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a shortage of tubes. Now the reason that we don't have to panic too much if we already own tube amps is because tubes last a hell of a long time. You can get a tube go microphonic, and what that means is you will get some excess crackly, nasty noises coming out of your tube. Sometimes they will ring out, and then you just find out which tube that is and you replace it. So you only need one tube to do that. You know, you don't need to retube a full amp. It's very rare you need to do that. Tube was lost a hell of a long time. I've had Marshalls with Marshall original tubes in, and they've run for like years, you know, without having to do anything to the tubes, having to replace them or anything. I once had a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, and I replaced the tubes just because I was interested in seeing what it sounded like if I messed with the tubes. And I ordered a full set of JJs, I put them in there, and even though my Mesa Boogie dual rectifier tubes were 3 years old, the JJs didn't sound as good as the Mesa Boogie tubes for some reason. It just didn't have as much oomph, it wasn't as in your face, it wasn't quite as attacking, didn't seem to have as much energy and as much power as it did with the Mesa Boogie tubes in there. But yeah, if you're a guy that likes to swap tubes in and out and mess around with tubes, then I totally understand the panic. And obviously I understand the panic for the guys that are waiting on, like say, an EVH Iconic like I am myself. That amp's made in China. The PV65052 is probably going to be made in China. Those amps will be delayed because they can't get the tubes from China anymore because there is no tubes there. So they'll be waiting on JJs, who have a huge backlog in that factory. and it will take time for sure to get tubes into brand new tube amps. But if you are a tube amp owner already, like I say, tubes can last 5 to 10 years, you know, depends how much hammer you give them. A typical example is that my EVH 50 watt 5153, I use that head for 3 hours on, you know, almost halfway on the volume at rehearsal every week, and then I'd use it again on the weekend, you know, and it would be on a stage, and it would be on probably a bit lesser volume than that, but it would probably be burning those tubes for another hour. So that's 4 hours a week, heavy use. And I use that head for, Jesus, I don't know how many years I used that head for, maybe 3 years. And I didn't need to change the tubes in that head. It was still fine. Nothing was wrong with it. If you get one tube that goes a bit faulty, a bit noisy, fair dues, replace it. But you don't need to go out and just keep replacing tubes like light bulbs. They're not like light bulbs in your house that will go and pop, you know, for no reason. Usually if your amp is popping tubes, you know, destroying tubes, burning them out, then there's a fault with your amp, a serious fault with it. I once had a JCM 800 back in the day. When I was a teenager, I saved up a lot of money to get that JCM 800. I dropped on one. It was £133 for that head. I actually remember how much it was, which is ridiculous now when you look back all these years how much tube amps are now. It was used. I got it off a guy. He clearly knew there was a fault. He wanted to offload it. It would have usually been about £200. I thought I dropped on a bargain. I didn't. I spent 3 times that £133 at least on trying to get the JCM 800 fixed, and I couldn't do. I ended up just getting rid of it. That amp had a serious problem which no amp tech seemed to be able to resolve, and basically I just kept having to replace tubes and get it serviced, and I was just throwing money at that head for no reason whatsoever. But like I say, that head must have had a serious problem, which is why it was destroying its tubes. So yeah, we don't need to panic. You know, don't go out there and panic buy. If every guitarist that owns tube amps goes out there and buys 3 sets of tubes, if you can afford it, because they're expensive, but if you go out there and do that, then obviously there's going to be a tube shortage for guys that actually need them because they need a new tube in their amp. But yeah, it's very rare that you'll go out and replace a full set of tubes. It might be just a preamp tube, like I say, it's got a bit noisy that needs replacing. You know, if tubes are going and burning out regularly, then there is a problem with your head. But tubes last a long time. The only way this will affect us as guitarists is that new amps that are in production, if you want to order a new tube amp, you are going to have a long time to wait. Like I say, my Iconic, I'm still waiting for it now. Plenty of amps are out of stock. If you go anywhere and you flick through all the tube amps, the popular ones are all out of stock. You know, I was looking for a Marshall the other day, and I actually went on, I think it was PMT Music, which is a UK music store. I was scrolling down, and just about all of them, apart from a 40 watt JVM combo, that was the only one I think that was in stock. Everything else was out of stock, or it was, you know, pre-order it. So yeah, the tube shortage does affect us. It is awful, you know. How bad will it get? We don't know yet. Is there a reason to panic? Not yet. We shouldn't be panicking yet. It will affect, there will be a shortage of tube amps for sure in production, because they can't get the tubes to put in them along with other components as well. Even guitars, because of COVID, we're struggling with guitars. There was no pickup bass plates for quite a long time. I've talked about that in other videos. So what I'm saying to you guys is do not panic. For those of you that are looking for an alternative anyway, you know, like I've used my Moore G300 live. It was fine. It felt fine. I could live with that. You know, I did miss the trouser flapping cab behind me, but I did manage to live with the G300, and out front everybody says it sounded great. You know, it's only on stage, if your other guitarists are using a tube amp and you're not, that you feel the difference, and it doesn't feel right. Out front it probably makes no difference. Models have got that good lately, and there's the Victory V4 Kraken Power pedal that's also amazing. You know, you could use something like that. Another brand that I've worked with regularly, and I know are also making like a tube pedal board that is going to be amazing. I can't wait for that. I'm not going to disclose who it is, but it is a brand that I've worked with before, and they are fantastic. I really can't wait for that to come out. But yeah, there's other alternatives for you guys that are on tour and worried about not being able to get hold of a tube if one goes while you're on tour. Totally understand that. But for you guys like me that just love tube amps, and you have plenty of them already, you're going to be okay. You know, tubes last a long time unless you've got an old amp. I've just tried to bid on an old Laney. I really want a GH100 Laney. They're absolutely fantastic. One of the best high gain amps ever made, in my opinion. Absolutely love the tone of them. Just tried to get hold of them. When that comes in, if I do manage to win it, you know, I've bid on it, like I say, I've made him an offer, this guy. If that amp comes in and I do get it, then I am going to have to order some tubes, because I don't know how much time those tubes have had on them, whether they're a bit weak or whatever, but it would make sense to put new tubes in and have it biased. But yeah, that's the situation. I hope you guys don't go out panic buying and ruin it for everybody, because if you do, it'll be like the toilet roll situation in COVID, where there was no toilet roll for days. You know, we're all using leaves out of the garden. Let me know in the comments what you think about the tube shortage. Let me know if it's affecting you. Let me know if you've been waiting for your amplifier, you know, a new amplifier, which probably many of you have. The question that I would ask you guys is, do we really need anyway to order new tube amplifiers? I mean, I'm as bad as anyone for wanting the latest EVH, you know, driftwood, whatever. I'm that guy myself. It's the temptation of the new gear, you know, that we want it, we want to own it, and we want to try it, and we want to see what it's like. But there's been tube amps around, like, let's look at, say, the Marshall DSL. There's nothing wrong with that amp. That amp's been around absolute years. It's fine. PV6505s, they've been around years. They're absolutely fantastic amps. We don't really need the latest tube amp. There's oldies out there that are absolutely fantastic. You know, if you are wanting a tube amp, then you don't have to go buy a brand new one. That's my verdict on it. I've just done it now. I've got sick of waiting a bit for a new amp. I feel like I need a new amp just to make me happy and to do a demo for you guys. So like I say, I'm looking for a Laney GH. Hopefully I will get hold of one. And that's an old amp, a really old amp, but it's a good one. And we don't really need all these new amps, let's face it. But let me know what you think about this video in the comments. Please subscribe and click the bell. There's tons of demos coming, and I'm hoping there will be amp demos. We will see. See you soon.